So yeah, uh, let's see if this works. Where it works. Oh, yes. So I have a Pico, but I sort of just kept it in a wrapper because I travel a lot with it. So that's how I program it. I have to connect it to the e-paper display, and then once it writes the code, then I can sort of just flash it and leave. So that all is done on the laptop. I do it on the laptop first. The final image that gets burned for the code is just the image, this code. So it uses MicroPython. So I have like MicroPython on the Pico rather than C. Uh, Mainly because once I started, I couldn't get back to C. So yeah, thank you. Is the audio? But I do have some photos. Um, should be here somewhere. Oh yeah. Hope this works. Yeah. So this is something that I have done for every event that I went. I used to make these logos. So this is I actually made it for Rohit also once for his DevRel logo, and that's just the normal LCD and the OLED display that I have played around with. But yeah, I used to make one logo for each and every event that I've gone to, and then just like use a QR code like meet people with. But yeah, that's about the paper displays. Anything else you would like to like discuss or like talk about before the next speaker comes? This one, I can try because mainly yeah, so the input is basically just your normal. You have code, MicroPython code. In that the e-paper display libraries and all are all written in MicroPython. I haven't like sat and wrote those. They were already somehow I found them and I use them. So if I have an image, like for example the Kubernetes logo, I take the image, I convert it into black and white first. So it has to look the same as a colored image. Then in GIMP, I can convert it to something called as BMP. So you have to index it first. So you index to black and white. So then you have just zero and like one sort of color. And after that, once you download that image, there's another FB image Python file in the repo that sort of converts it into the byte. And then it gives you also the MicroPython code. You just copy the variable and then put it on your put it on your code and then just flash the. No, not yet. I do have one guy I just last week met in some restaurant. So he's also doing similar with cards, but just normal paper cards. So it depends on the screen. This screen is around 1.5K. The It's I think a 2.7 inch screen. So depending on the screen size, the price sort of fluctuates. So you get these very small screens also that come that are like very cheap. No, yeah, I do want to start like something similar, but let's. Yeah, I can show you one if possible. Uh, Mm, okay, so for example, if it's a Kubernetes image, then I have to first sort of just go into the image and make it into index. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so then you get this option of using, 1 bit palette. So since it's like that's the only thing you can, you just have to convert it into that. So you get something like this. Once I get this, I scale it up, and then I have to use that convert image thing. Yeah, I scale it to the size of the screen or however it is. It's a little bit of a trial and error, and then there's a centering. So then after that, if you see the script here, I think uh, it's very less, to be honest. Uh, Around 200 by 200 into something, but it does a job. I mean, like, if you ask me, it's sort of, where's this one? So then this script that is there, right, this fp image.py, it sort of converts it. So this I have to export it into BMP. So then I have a BMP file that I have to then convert into a PBM. I don't know these format names, but this is how it is. Like, you convert into PBM, and then this script uses the PBM file to convert it into the byte. Yeah, BMP is bitmap. The PBM thing is some other portable format. But once it does that, it then, that's it. That's the end. The only after that, the only problem is the uh, pushing it to the board. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, yeah. So BMP, and you convert it into PBM using the convert tool, the convert tool, and then you just run that FB image file on the image. That gives you the entire byte. So the larger the image is, the more your byte array is larger than that. Yeah. So it's very quick when you're in. Sorry. You can use anything. You can use anything. So no. So I don't know where my code is gone, but so this. Sorry. Oh yeah, the board is. So this comes with Wi-Fi. This board is the Pico. Uh, you can. So you don't need SSH. I mean, you don't need SSH if you sort of run a web. So this has Wi-Fi, right? So what I want to do eventually is have a web interface where a user can just upload an image, convert it into all this, like, show like a preview sort of thing, right? So then someone can see, okay, how it will look on their Pico or on their image, and then just flash. Yeah, it comes with Wi-Fi. So you can set up a web server. Or you can just use Bluetooth, either one. Yeah. I don't know. So recently there have been talks about running Linux on a Milk video, the recipe processor. It could be done for this also. Both have like similar memory space requirements. So technically you could run SSH and all that, but why would you want to do that on a micro sort of? It is easier to write code like so you can also do OTA updates for this. You have a web server. You can use the web server to yeah. So you can actually because they have come up with a very micro Linux recently. If you'll just Google it, Milk Video Linux on YouTube, there's an entire video where they have managed to run Linux on. So Milk Video is similar to a Raspberry Pi Pico in terms of form factor and uh, memory and RAM and all that, like the CPU processing and all. So they have managed to port it to that. So if they can do it for RISC-V, then ARM is not like behind. So the only thing with the RP2040 processor, does this on the Pico, is it has Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth. Even the ESP32s that you'll see these days, they come with very low powered Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. So you can run a web server. If you write something like MicroPython, it's just one one library that you have to import. You run a web server, you can do OTA. So you have a web server, you can just push a update to the firmware, something like that, and you can also reset the pin. So using that, you can basically update the e-paper display. That's one thing I want to do this year if I get time. But yeah, it's a slow process. So I'm also seeing the ESP32s, which are now much better. I bought a lot of microprocessors, but I haven't got it here. So ESP32 is a good one. People hate on it because it's like from China and all, but that's the reality. Yeah, it's very cost effective. There is also the now the AI ones that are coming. ESP32 has one that is AI enabled. It comes with a if you go on robo.in, there's a ESP32 with I think from DF Robot, the DF Robot product. Yeah, they have a AI cam. They have a camera with that you can push an SD card to, and then you can just connect it to a board. And the board is like this small. Yeah, I'll show it to you. I recently bought it. Oh, so it is here. So there are a lot of DF Robot ones. Yeah, I think it's something like this, the AI thinker or something. So it just comes with the ESP32. I can't find the supposed to be there with the camera or something like that. Yeah, something similar to this one where you get like a camera and they have a good documentation. Oh, I think it's by Speed Studio, it's not by DF Robot Studio. Yeah, it's one of the smaller ones that it's an RP 2040 itself, but yeah, it's this one. So you get an entire board with a microphone, battery, and all this, and you can sort of do IoT and ML. I haven't had a chance to like test it out, but their videos are pretty good. Like they have good docs for that. But maybe time soon. Yeah, yeah. I haven't really had a chance to like open CV yet, where you can actually just get a Raspberry Pi and like, try it out with that. But yeah, I think it's pretty cost effective for like 1.3K, like such a small board. Uh, so I think the way it works is you can I think offload it also to another device, but you can record via that. That's the main that's the main thing, right? You can record and send it somewhere, and then some part of it probably does AI stuff. I'm not like super into the hardware sort of thing, but it, it's something similar. But yeah, any other things you all would like to discuss or something like that? Because it's a very small meetup and like it's meant to like start the hardware community here. Eventually, I'll make probably a Telegram or a Discord, either one, which are easier to manage. But yeah, so have you all like any projects or something that you all are working on? PWA. Is it like a security thing? So there is also something called as wardriving. Oh, this is nice. So have you all heard of something called as wardriving? It's something similar to this, but it was created by this some person on the internet. So this person is the one who I think started it, if I'm not mistaken. So it's this small device that people take around and they just drive and they try to get access to Wi-Fi networks on the way. And it was made in such a way that you could have like points, so how much you drive around and like get access. People used to actually like gamify it. And in the US, pretty much cars are like the only thing that you can use. People used to just put it in their car and drive this around and like try to get access to open it. WIGLE.net. Oh wow. Okay, this is cool. Okay. Is there a zoom in? Oh, is that there's a San Francisco part? Oh wow. Oh, it did ask me for the location actually. Oh, where did it take me? It took me to some. Is it this? Andheri. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, can't ask for a lot. Is there a way to make this website bit? Yeah, I think I'm zoomed in or zoomed out. That. What talking about that? This page. Is it me or is it zoomed in? Okay. Is it better now? Why doesn't it? Oh, there's quite a lot of activity here. So I mean, pretty cool. Like, so eventually, if we get good enough things, right, I can maybe partner with the Pune folks. So Pune, there's a lot of uh, actual hardware stores there that ship from there, like Robo ship from there. Many of the like Compinda, all of them are mostly from there. I also have one contact like Bangalore called Om Tech Store or something like that. So I visited the shop actually there. It's like a whole, like it's just a table, and then behind is like entire chips and screens and all. So even he shipped to Mumbai. So in case we get like companies that want to help in Mumbai, we could eventually have a workshop. If you all know anyone or any college who would like to like keep the workshop, we can get people from out. Also. That also would be better. So Ate, who was supposed to do the first talk, she's actually a student. She worked on the Linux kernel, uh, the firmware part and all. Now she's working with, I don't know if I can say this, but she's working with Shakti processors. So if you all know Shakti processors, they are doing the RISC-V and all in India. Yeah, yeah, IIT Madras. Yeah. So I also bought a board from India called from Vega processors. I don't know if they're the same. They seem the same on the internet, but I don't know if they're just two different companies. So don't buy the Vega one. Please don't buy. They don't have proper support, and like they don't have anything. Like if you try to email them or like get access to the GitLab repo of theirs, they don't give you access. So it's a very big problem if you buy that board and just keep it at. So I think the Shakti ones haven't yet started selling stuff, but maybe eventually they will. So she works in the Linux kernel and like porting all the stuff to. Now she's working on FreeRTOS. So she was going to give a talk on that, the RTOS thing. But yeah, any other topics or Devarshi, you can start setting it. I mean now, like. But yeah, sorry. You can use. I think it depends. Right? It's an OS, so it requires a little bit of a processor, not a controller. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So if you need a microprocessor for that, not the controller. But it's pretty cool. The ESP32s, they are very cheap. They have Wi-Fi, and you can literally make IoTs out of it. Uh, but yeah, you need any help? Should be Zoom. Keep it now. Keep it. So, like anyone working on any pretty cool stuff, shouldn't be hardware or anything, but anything related to that. Nobody? Oh, Sumesh definitely has something in his bag. It's okay, take your time. Stand, show it to everyone. Right? Sitting in one. Okay, so this I have a cool story about this. I've been trying to do it from last year. So I have a mechanical keyboard that's just wired. Eventually like gave in and got a new one, but the goal was to sort of convert it into an HID using ESP32. So the very cool thing about it is you can just use an ESP32, wire it to the keyboard, and the keyboard will connect as a normal device to the ESP32, and you can use it as a wireless keyboard. So any keyboard today can be converted into a wireless one. So there is something called as a library in Python called as uh, I can't circuit Python. Circuit Python is something that makes this thing very easy from what I have heard. So you can just randomly use Circuit Python to do a lot of different stuff like your mouse, like mouse. A mouse has enough space to put a processor inside it. A keyboard a little bit because if you have to convert a wired keyboard into a wired, you need a battery. You need a processor. You need enough space to put all of them together, not put enough pressure on the battery to blast it. So that is one thing with the keyboard is that it's a little bit hard, but it's doable. You can sort of either create your own case, 3D printing or something. Yeah, there is a Raspberry Pi Go called Pi Go. Sorry, you all mind coming in the front? Like, yeah, 400. Yeah, I think it's named after some Star Trek or something that's similar. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. But I don't think it's readily available here now because everything it is. The last year the Raspberry Pi failed. The stock has been like going down. But uh, yeah, the thing with the Raspberry Pi, even though it's like cheap, right? They don't not cheap, but like the processor and all that they put, they can actually put enough stuff, but just that to keep it cheap, right? They don't. Like for example, the orange. If you take the orange Pi, it comes in at least 32 GB RAM, and nobody's like saying that they won't pay for it. Just that Raspberry Pi doesn't do it. Like they made 8 GB as the last. So then it forces people, for example, if I had to build like a Kubernetes cluster, I have to get like these four nodes, like one master node and remaining child nodes, like something like that. Uh, but that sort of, causes a lot of cost. Like you have to get 5 or 4 pies, a switch and all that thing. With the Orange Pi, you could just get two nodes and you'll have like around a 64 GB ARM cluster. So in ARM, there are a lot of things that happen. So I am also a risky dev board. I'm in the dev board. We get like a dev board to test stuff out. So you also check out the ARM and the RISC-V programs. They have a lot of student programs, and even there's Hackster.io. So Hackster.io has hackathons, uh, which they give you like boards and all to test. Like the latest one was I think the STM 32 that they were giving the neo nuclei board something like that. Yeah, so they were giving it if you had a project proposal. So if you're in college or something like that, just check out Hackster.io. They have a hackathon I think every other week or something. But yeah, apart from that, Risk has a dev program that's free. The ARM one is I think there's a lot of friction around ARM because ARM is not exactly free, right? You have to use ARM. You have to like pay a license fee or something. But Risk also is not that great. Even though it is open, the chip manufacturer they can sort of hide the design. Like they don't if they don't share the design, it's okay. So yeah, so these are two programs where students or something like that can apply and get bored, test it out. For internships, this is also they have this internship program where they have meetings and all, and you can just go and like sign up there and like get these. So I think I got the what's it called? I can't recollect the name. The board that came out recently for I think it's Milky or Vision 5. I got the Star 5 Vision 5 2, which is like around 8 GB RAM or something. So I haven't like played enough around with it, but I was planning on like doing some web server stuff. So for today's meetup, the hardware also is something similar. Actually, it's streaming on YouTube, but it's supposed to stream on PeerTube. So I set that up in the night, and it's working, but not giving enough quality content, which is to YouTube for now. But yeah, so you're done. Display by default. So you need to create a display, and that is why I use this device.
No, separately bought. So I think you all might have seen the red case, Raspberry Pi regular. This I bought it externally. Okay. Uh, you have a micro HDMI to HDMI converter, and behind which there's a USB device. Forgot its name. But what this initially does is, by default, when you create a remote desktop, when you start your Raspberry Pi, it doesn't have a display. In case you are using the Ubuntu desktop, let's say version instead of Ubuntu server, this device will create a desktop display for you and it will send it to this. From here, ये आगे कहाँ जाने नहीं वाला because this end. There's no output to it. And yeah, you can see that in Ubuntu server. Yeah, I mean, in case you need desktop just for ease or convenience, you can, I mean, just so that you have a backup sort of remote desktop environment, any sort of, let's say, you have some self-host tools, what I show ahead. You can also use your desktop in which you can just run any software, including, let's say, Chromium, something like that, and use your browser. Hmm? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's say you're just traveling outside and you're having a 4G network, which sucks, and I want to do some, let's say, VS Code में कुछ कोड करना है वगैरह, और डॉकर से कोई कंटेनर पुल करना है, यूजुअली 1-2 GB का निकलेगा अगर कोई बड़ा कंटेनर रहेगा तो, इमेज रहेगा तो. So in that case, that 4G won't be able to. What I can do is I can just remote desktop to and then pull it on that. I'll say that using the terminal, I can always do Docker pull. But let's say there's some GUI related task. That is quite easier, what I find. Uh, and apart from this, I think all these specs are senior. Um, Quad core extra powers lot of compute. ARM, if you try to get the same compute in x86, this will be about on an approx of 35 watt of 45 watt. Probably Leon's laptop is uh, having that CPU compared to the Raspberry Pi just working at 5 volts and 3 watt 3 ampere, which is approximately 15 watt. I did check a few YouTube videos and also from that what is apparent to were those electric voltage meter connected. It's between 10 to 12, so it's not even 15. Another thing for that case is I actually, when I use it at my own lab server, I use it with a SSD. So I have an internal 1 TB gigabyte connected with a case, which I plug it to USB. Just because you can get higher performance with SSD rather than using SD card. Now, some people might say, how about using an NVMe SSD? The problem with NVMe SSD is then finding the right case is quite hard. Yeah, 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 yeah. On the just for booting, it either uses SD card or USB. So in fact, it doesn't have a proper BIOS. Also, it has a bootloader. So yeah. So even like yesterday, इसे setup किया था on SD card. You have to format it, the SD card, change the boot settings from USB to SD card, then reformat. Since I don't have another spare SD card, then reinstall Ubuntu on that or whatever OS you want to use. Still able to perform crypto mining, run AI models on this Raspberry Pi, just at 5 volt 3 ampere. Crypto mining is possible. You won't be earning like dollars, thousands of dollars using this. Uh, and technically, you're at loss because the power consumed by this 5 volt is still more than how much is mined from this Raspberry Pi. So some people stack up Raspberry Pis and try to perform crypto mining and all, even though it's not that profitable, just for fun or as a hobby. Running AI models, again, same thing. You can run different AI models on, uh, yeah, yeah, Llama 2D. Uh, the yeah, yeah. And by default, I think many of you might know Olama Web UI, through which you might be able to install any sort of AI model with the paid GBC Pi comes at a max with 8 GB. Now, some people might say to go with the Pi 5 because actually when I bought it, I recently bought it about 3 to 4 months ago. So the Pi 5 was out, or I think coming in a month or something like that. So the reason why I didn't go with the Pi 5 is because it takes about 27 to 30 watts. Better than that is, in fact, even a MacBook which has a similar voltage. So the MacBook CPU itself consumes about 18 watts, but gives the performance like a Ryzen 9 or i9 core. Compare it with a Raspberry Pi, it's a mobile. I mean, both of them are mobile, but that's the difference. Securing your Pi from the public network. So once you have your Homelab server set up, which will do live bit of demo, uh, we will have to set up the firewall, and also if you are using it for your internal network, you might just set up firewall and leave it as. But if you want to expose it, you might use Tailscale on top of it to access it securely just by your device. Um, we do have Cloudflare or HTTPS over HTTP in case you're hosting some Nginx server web UI on the Pi. Thought of the possibilities of how many tools that you're using today, are they available on Pi? Are they available to be self-hosted? Rather than Pi, you might even have a old desktop computer particularly. You might even try to run on this. So instead of GitHub, you might use GitLab, AdBlocker Plus, or uBlock. Okay, uBlock Origin is still open source, so you might use that. Uh, but Pi-hole provides it at a base at your router, so providing network security to all the devices. Instead of deploying to Heroku, Railway, and all the previous slide as we saw, we could just use Nginx or something. Instead of that, Docker here is also another tool to use. Proxmox isn't natively supported by the Pi since it requires x86, AMD, or Intel processors. So there's a tool that was built called as PyMox. You can use it to deploy virtual machines on the instead of Office 3. Yeah, yeah, GitHub self-hosted GitHub type thing, wherein you could store different Git repositories, all the pull request issues in it. Yeah, yeah. There's another called as GitLab, but I think it's not open source. And in the end, you might even get GitHub Enterprise, the ISO file what they provide, but that's not open source, and then I didn't add that. Uh, Nextcloud is yeah. GitLab also has its own self-hosted version to use on the Pi, right? I think I'm not sure, but okay, okay, awesome. Maybe they might have some pricing plan or something to GitLab. Okay, yeah. So we do have Nextcloud instead of Office 365. There's own cloud. Instead of using Google Drive, all the Google Slides, etc., you can just install Nextcloud, and you have your own self-hosted drive solution. Instead of GitHub Codespace or something like uh, Gitpod or something like, you can have a VS Code environment in your browser with Coder. To be exact, I think the name is coder.com, the website. And again, instead of NordVPN, you can always have your own IP to use it anywhere rather than connecting to any random using OpenVPN or Tailscale. Coder is something similar to GitHub Codespace, wherein you could run like VS Code but in your browser. Along with that, there's support for terminal and not just VS Code. I think you can run IntelliJ IDEA and all the IntelliJ JetBrains tools as well. Yeah, using you can use Tailscale or OpenVPN, whatever works. it uses Docker at the back. So it initially create Docker containers. And in fact, that's what Gitpod is doing, but at a next level scale with their own servers. I think they're using Google Cloud. Yeah, they for JetBrains they use screen share type of technique. So it's some sort of screen sharing, and you click on it. So there's some lag in that case. But when it comes to VS Code in your browser, that is natively. How about some more easier setups rather than having multiple Docker containers and configure something? You could use something like Umbrella. You have all the popular tools ready to use just as a single click. So it's not a actual OS, even though you can install it directly on the bare Raspberry Pi. I would suggest to have a OS on top of it. So let's say Debian or Ubuntu, on which you install. Just because from what I've seen, Umbrella is open source, but it doesn't have any backup facilities. So you might need to, let's say you're using Nextcloud, you might need to connect external S3 to back up all your files. Yeah, I think let's take it all to localhost then. Uh, I did post this meme about 1 or 2 days ago. Uh, yeah, just the Raspberry Pi imager tool. Previously, you had to configure the Raspberry Pi with the Raspbian OS to change the bootloader, let's say from USB to SD card and all, and the chances of getting it corrupt. Now, what has happened is they've just provided a GUI for it, so you can just create the SD card, whatever the bootloader, you can just burn it on the SD card, and then it's ready to work. Uh, and I think I just got a fire running over there. Visible. To start with, I did through a bunch of self-hosted tools to use on the Pi, uh, and there's a lot of them from the list. So if you have thought of something related to socials or deploying a local database, any sort of solution, what you have thought on the cloud, now you could run it locally on your Pi. And yeah, in my case, I'm literally powering it off power bank, so it works perfectly fine. Hmm? Um, bunch of tools over here, endless list. So in few of the tools aren't really supported on the Pi just because it's ARM based instead of x86, standard x86. So you might need to have a old PC to run few of these software because most of them work fine using power bank directly. Yeah, absolutely. And having an external SD card, you could even sorry SSD, you could even have a SSD connected it. So you have an entire server which is portable with you, and you could run it anywhere. There's more tools, common ones like Grafana, Goes, Gitty, as I said earlier. Someone has created this repository. This Kodi, if you're one of those who watches Netflix and all, maybe you might just self-post it using Kodi and then store all your media files on it. expect. Firewall, I think I'm sure all of them are aware of, used for ad blocking and tracking prevention. And this is a GUI tool, but an awesome one. This basically allows me to install most of the Pi apps. These are mostly desktop apps. These are not self-hosted apps, but in case you're planning to use the desktop version, you might use this. Uh, and the thing with when you use the desktop, you might need to use 720p while using the Pi, because at even at 1080p or as Raspberry Pi says, 4K 60, it is able to run at 4K, but there's a ton of lag. In fact, when even I show at 1080p, it just starts lagging. Yeah, yeah. You could just scale down the display to minimize the graphics load. Just give me a second trying to get the local private IP. Phone hang हो गया. Phone hang. So was just getting up the local IP from my hotspot to connect with the Pi. Hmm? अरे ऊपर I think D. Hmm. Just installing Pi root username. And for getting the display to my like remote, using remote desktop, I'm not using XRDP or anything, because in that then you have to configure the duration after which the display will time out. In the case of no machine, it just stays on. Yeah, so instead of that, I'm using no machine instead of XRDP or VM. So, so we have different graphical tools to use on the Pi. Uh, with Pi app, चालेल मी करतो सुरू बस बस एवढंच होतं. एवढंच करू. So this will be kind of a replacement for the third talk. Uh, start. Good. Yeah. So this will be kind of the replacement for the third talk. And today I'm going to be talking about kind of what just Devarshi just presented. That is empowering a local machine. So yeah, so Devarshi the demonstrated his setup that he used basically used Raspberry Pis, and even he has a more expensive setup. But the the kind of the theme of the talk, the context of it was that you don't need to buy an expensive Homelab server or any expensive hardware if you want to like just begin with your home lab. You could pretty much achieve the same results on consumer hardware as well. So what I did was I had this old PC lying around. So it's actually pretty old. It's actually pretty old. It was like a dual core processor and 2 gigs of RAM. So pretty much you can't run any modern software on it. So it just I use it as a like storage device. So I thought like why not try to set up your own like a little cloud inside your home. So basically what I try to do is like mm, deploy VMs and stuff. So next slide. So yeah, Devashi just said, like if you want to like host VMs inside your home network, so for just like trying out different stuff or like trying out different software or maybe even self-hosting some of your services, you might have heard of these services. Sorry, this software is like Proxmox, CloudStack, OpenStack. Like, uh, many of it's even used in some enterprise situations like if some companies like basically running the services on-prem, uh, CloudStack, OpenStack is a popular thing. But basically you need a home lab for that, like a professional little rack kind of thing. Uh, but why would you like why would you buy that in your home actually? So you could just use any like old PC you have lying around. So the trick is to like go down to the basics. Linux already ships with KVM, and you could use the KVM, QVM, stack, like pretty much achieve the same result. So yeah, and about VirtualBox too. So VirtualBox, like you should avoid using VirtualBox because it's good for like beginners and stuff. But yeah, it's pretty heavy kind of. So yeah, this is just a meme that I have made. Mom, can we have EC2 at home? Uh, but I just have my old PC at because uh, people do use like VPCs, right? Self-host your software. Hmm. Like, I'm not like using EC2. It's just a meme. It's like instead of using Amazon, you could like post it on your old machine. Let's not talk about this. So this is the tool that I have used. The tool it's a library. I think no, it's actually a service that you run on your OS. Libvirt. So what libvirt does is that it provides like an API, an interface for KVM and QEMU. Actually, a lot of the big services like Proxmox, they also use like KVM down under. But libvirt is like it's programmable, so you could create your own interface to interact with libvirt. So the interface that I use for this is there's actually a Terraform provider for libvirt. So just as I said, if you want to like configure machines, virtual machines on your home computer, you could basically use Terraform to do that. So yeah, so this is how the chain of things like down under you have hardware, and just above hardware you have the KVM, the kernel virtual machine. Then you have the QEMU, which is like responsible for emulating the actual hardware. And then in the middle you have libvirt, that is the API, which basically talks to KVM and QEMU. It's a good interface. Also, you have these like very lightweight command line programs to like set up VMs. Word Manager is actually a GUI, so you could use the Word Manager to like VNC into the remote, sorry, virtual machine. Okay. Where's Devarshi? Devarshi, how do I exit full screen? Uh, so this was the Terraform file. So yeah, this was the Terraform file that I used. It's pretty much like very similar to how you would use the AWS provider or any other cloud providers. You could you have the resource, then you could also pass on data, the cloud init file like you as you do with, any other cloud provider. Then there's a whole lot of thing you all the network configuration. You want to have a bridge network or a router. It's pretty much similar to what you do with any other cloud provider. Could attach this. So that was actually it. That was the whole thing what I wanted to do here. So actually, for some time, I used this old PC to host my own blog. So I exposed it through something you guys might know. It's called the Cloudflare tunnel. So yeah, I used that. So instead of like just forwarding the port through my home router, I used the Cloudflare tunnel. So, it's like a nice secure way to deploy things from your home. Minimum requirement. I think you'd be able to pretty much run it on any configuration, hardware configuration. I think. So this was like I said. dual core processor, two gigs of RAM. Yeah. Actually, one more thing I'd like to talk about. Uh, just a bit of a suggestion. If you're trying to run LLMs locally, you could also try to run things. There's a thing called as SLM, basically a small language model. Some of you might have heard of it. I think Microsoft released a small language model. It's called Phi and Phi 2, PHI. Phi. So the idea behind SLMs is that so basically LLMs are like trained on general text data, is like anything, any kind of text. It's just it's not that tailored. So what they're trying to do is that they're trying to replicate the outputs of an LLM using less parameters, but the training data that they're providing is like very much refined. Like they are, I think they are trying to train the data that they're using. It's like storybooks for children and like text data which actually explains the body of the matter that it's talking about. So it's like teaching a child basically using textbooks. It's still in the works, but I think it's a great thing to try out. And the main factor is that it's not that big. I think the whole thing is about you could run it on your even on your laptop, 8 gigs of RAM smoothly. Oh, that's true. That's there. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks.